Welcome to my home.
Welcome to
Whispers of Vale Keep.
Hello, everyone. This is Lady Zelda. Welcome to Whispers of Vale Keep. This is a very special podcast. It is Christmastide. We are here with Lord Greggor of Vale Keep, and I hope everyone has had a beautiful and wonderful day. But we've got a really special show for you. And so I would like to welcome in Lord Greggor. Merry Christmas, Lord Greggor. Welcome in to the podcast.
Merry Christmas, Lady Zelda. Christmastide is received here with quiet honor. The candles have been tended. The night has agreed to be still. I am glad to be with you.
Likewise, Lord Greggor. So Christmas used to be a season, not a morning. It was a season that required patience. And believe me, I think a lot of people forget that. Before we talk about centuries past, there's a writer that I believe many people will recognize because he remembered something that was already fading in his own time. Would you read that passage for us? I think you understand and know who that is.
I do. There are moments when a voice from another century remembers for us, because the remembering was already slipping away. I will read. It was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well. If any man alive possessed the knowledge, may that be truly said of us and all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, everyone. Those words were written when Christmas was already becoming hurried, already being narrowed into a day instead of a season. Already forgetting its patience. He was not preserving novelty, he was preserving time.
That was from Charles Dickens. And even in the 1800s, he was already looking backwards. So let's go back further. When you think about Christmas in the 15th and 16th centuries, what was it actually like?
In the 15th and 16th centuries, Christmas was not anticipated the way it is now. It was entered. The season did not announce itself with abundance. It arrived after restraint. Advent was taken seriously. Weeks of preparation, quiet meals, fewer lights, fewer indulgences. Not because joy was denied, but because joy was trained. One learned how to receive it. When Christmastide began, it unfolded slowly. 12 days, not one morning. Candle by candle, story by story, table by table. Homes were colder, churches were warmer. Food was richer because it had been absent. Meat returned, ale flowed more freely, spices appeared, rare, costly things. Not excessive, but meaningful. What was placed on the table carried memory and gratitude with it. Work paused, but not in the modern sense of escape. It paused so that people could be present, with kin, with neighbors, with the poor. Doors were expected to open. Hospitality was an obligation, not a performance. There was singing, yes, but also listening. Scripture was read aloud, stories were told, of saints, of the nativity, of ancestors who had survived previous winters. Children learned not through instruction, but through repetition. Gifts were simple, often symbolic. A key, a book, a tool. Something that said, you are trusted, you are needed, you belong. Most importantly, time slowed. No one expected Christmas to do something for them. They entered it knowing it would change them. Quietly, over days. That patience. That has been the greatest loss.
I don't know about any of you that are out there listening, but I just got transported back. Seems like many, many years. a different century. Sometimes I think times were kinder back then. And also, I've heard, Lord Greggor, that noblemen, servants, workers all communed together. They all spent time together. Is that true? I think we're just so interested about this. And also, if you could touch base on when Vale Keep was at its peak and running at full capacity, for lack of a better word, I guess. How many people did you have there? Tell us about Vale Keep during its highlight, during its high day.
You are not imagining it. Time was experienced differently then, and because of that, people were often kinder to one another, if only by necessity. Yes, during Christmastide, the boundaries between noble, servant, and laborer softened. They did not vanish entirely. Hierarchies still existed, but the season required shared presence. A lord was expected to open his hall. A household was expected to become one table, not many. In those days, a great house was not a private retreat. It was a living system. At Christmastide, servants were not hidden away. They ate from the same kitchens, heard the same stories, sang the same carols. Games were played that required laughter rather than rank. Even the Lord of Misrule, an inversion that unsettled the order just enough to remind everyone that power was temporary and humanity was shared. It was understood that warmth, literal and otherwise, was not to be hoarded in winter. As for Vale Keep, at its height, it was not silent as it is now. There were between 120 to 150 souls within its walls during the winter months. Fewer in summer, when people traveled and fields called them away. More in deep winter, when roads were dangerous and shelter mattered. There were stewards and housekeepers, guards who rotated watches through the night, kitchen workers who rose before dawn, scribes, messengers, tutors, craftsmen, smiths, carpenters, masons, and always children, more than people expect. Children were everywhere then. Their voices echoed in stone corridors. They learned the keep by running its length. The great hall was lit constantly during Christmastide. Fires were kept through the night. The kitchen never truly slept. Bread was baked daily. Ale was warmed. Candles were burned freely, an indulgence in itself. And there were evenings, quiet ones, when the work stopped, and everyone gathered simply to listen. Not to instruction, not to command, but to remembrance. Stories of the Nativity, stories of winter survived, stories of those who had stood in the same places decades earlier and were now gone. That is what people miss when they imagine the past as kinder. It was not easier, it was colder, it was harsher. But people understood something we have forgotten, that no one passes through winter alone, or the winter takes them. Vale Keep, at its height, existed to hold people together. That was its greatest strength.
Thank you for sharing that. That just sounds so beautiful, and a time I really wish I could have been there. But I want to ask you specifically about something, Lord Greggor. I want to ask you about the 12 days of Christmas. So, when we think of that song, typically here now in this modern day, we think of starting like at December 12th or the 13th and then going through Christmas. It's like the crescendo that we get the ultimate Christmas day. So, can you give us your take or what Christmas the 12 days of Christmas really are?
Of course, the confusion comes from direction. Today, people move toward Christmas as though it were a finish line. In earlier centuries, Christmas was the doorway, not the destination. The 12 days of Christmas begin on Christmas Day, not before it. December 25th was not the climax, it was the opening. From that day forward, Christmastide unfolded slowly, deliberately, day by day, till Epiphany on January 6th. Each day carried its own meaning, its own rhythm, its own small observances. There was no rush to consume it all at once. The song you mentioned was never meant to be a countdown. It was a memory device, a way to teach faith, symbolism, and patience in a time when books were scarce and learning was oral. Each gift layered upon the last, not to overwhelm, but to reinforce. During those 12 days, work remained lighter, fires stayed lit, guests continued to arrive, food was shared repeatedly, not all at once. Worship deepened rather than peaked. Joy was not spent in a single morning, it was stretched so it could last. In many households, the most meaningful gatherings happened after Christmas Day. That is when people had time to sit, to speak, to listen, when stories were told again, when scripture was revisited, when gifts, often symbolic, were given quietly, not unwrapped in haste. Epiphany, the 12th day, carried great weight. It marked revelation, recognition, and understanding. The wise men arrived not at the manger, but after the birth, after the waiting. That is the part modern timekeeping has reversed. We now exhaust ourselves before the feast and collapse afterward. Christmastide once taught the opposite. Prepare slowly, enter fully, and remain a while. The season was not meant to be conquered. It was meant to be kept, and when it ended, it did so gently, leaving warmth behind it rather than exhaustion. That is what the 12 days truly are.
So imagine all of us out there that are listening. We grew up with different values when it came with Christmas. We may have a shared belief, but imagine this in modern times. It's almost as though Christmas is incorporated. It's a competition of seeing who can give the best, the biggest, and who can outgive the other, when yet the simplest things and the simplest times seem like they were the best. That's definitely what Lord Greggor is talking about. So, Lord Greggor, a question for you. Over the years, over the centuries, what really do you think we have lost during this time?
Veliana, what we have lost is not the season itself. It still arrives. What we have lost is our posture toward it. In earlier centuries, Christmas asked very little of people materially, and quite a lot of them inwardly. Now it asks for proof. Proof of generosity, proof of joy, proof of belonging. Proof that one has participated enough, that pressure did not exist before. What has been lost first is stillness. Not silence, but the willingness to pause without anxiety. To sit with anticipation without needing to fill it. To allow a moment to remain unfinished. We have also lost trust. There was once an understanding that meaning would arrive on its own time. That joy did not need to be manufactured or displayed. That gifts did not need to compete because they were never meant to measure worth. A small gift given at the right moment carried weight. A shared meal taken slowly mattered more than abundance. Presence itself was considered an offering. What has been lost most deeply, I think, is time that is not transactional. Christmas was once time set apart from usefulness. You were not productive during it. You were not efficient. You were not improving yourself or proving anything. You were simply there, with others, with memory, with faith, with warmth. Now even joy is scheduled. Even rest is earned. Even generosity is evaluated. And so, the season becomes exhausting. We have also lost the understanding that waiting is part of joy, that longing sharpens gratitude, that preparation deepens celebration. When everything is available at once, nothing lingers. The past was not gentler because people were better. It was gentler because time moved more slowly, and people were required to move with it. What can still be reclaimed is simple, though not easy. Less display, more presence, fewer expectations, deeper listening. Christmas was never meant to be won. It was meant to be kept, quietly, collectively, and without proof.
One thing before we continue. You mentioned more presence. I believe what you mean is existing, being around others more, and not more presence as in gifts. I just wanted to clarify that just for a brief moment, and we will continue.
Yes, thank you for pausing there. That distinction matters. When I spoke of presence, I meant being, not giving. Presence as in sitting without distraction, remaining with others without agenda, listening without preparing a reply, sharing space rather than filling it. Not presence measured in objects, packages, or gestures meant to be seen. In earlier times, to be present meant you were accounted for. Your body was there. Your attention was there. Your time belonged to the moment and the people within it. That kind of presence was considered sufficient. Gifts existed. Yes, but they were secondary. They followed presence. They did not replace it. So you are exactly right to clarify that way, Veliana.
And you are quite welcome. Thank you so much for the clarification. Now, continuing on, something really important, and that is if you could bring one old tradition back, exactly as it was back when you knew it, what would it be?
If I could bring one tradition back, unchanged, unsoftened, exactly as it was, it would be this: the shared vigil. Not a performance, not an event, simply an agreed upon hour when people gathered and did nothing else. In earlier centuries during Christmastide, there were evenings when the household, noble, servant, guest, child, came together not to celebrate outwardly, but to keep watch. Candles were lit, fires were tended, and people stayed awake together. There was no constant talking, no instruction, no expectation to entertain. Scripture might be read, a story might be told. Often, there was only quiet. The point was not what happened during the vigil. The point was that no one was alone with the night. Winter has a way of pressing inward. Darkness lengthens. Thoughts grow heavier. The vigil acknowledged the truth without trying to fix it. It said, "We will sit with this together." That tradition taught patience. It taught endurance. It taught the simple, powerful truth that presence, shared presence, changes how darkness is experienced. Today, we fear stillness. We feel every moment. We mistake silence for absence. But the vigil was never empty. It was where people learned to wait without despair, to listen without demand, and to understand that hope does not always arrive loudly. If that could return, 1 hour, one night, one gathering, where nothing is required except being there, I believe much would quietly heal. That is the tradition I would restore.
Now, Lord Greggor, this reminds me many nights, and before I even begin saying this, you and I are sitting here watching each other on our devices as we are recording this. And I think it's always so good to watch each other and see our reactions. Because sometimes I wave at you, and sometimes you acknowledge, and sometimes I know I kind of throw you off track, and you do the same with me. But what I want to share is that is healing. And many nights, in the wee hours of the morning, I'm going to say, you will call me on the Zoom, and you will have your tea, and I will have mine. And we talk throughout the night. You'll be in your study, I'll be in my room, or I'll walk around the house, you'll walk around your house. We replenish our tea water, we replenish our tea, we may have a little snack, but there are many times that we're just quiet. Many times you've read to me books from your vast library. Many times I share music with you. And if that is the vigil, anything even remotely close, I wish everyone could experience that, because that is very much healing.
Oh, yes, Veliana, that is the vigil. And yes, those nights matter to me more than I usually admit. There is something quietly comforting about knowing the kettle will be refilled, that footsteps will wander in the background, that silence doesn't mean absence, tea going cold, pages being read simply because they want to be heard, music shared not to impress but because it belongs to us in our hour. Those moments are not grand, they are not historic, they are not meant for anyone else. And yet, they restore something essential. I suppose that is where the humanity lives, not in ceremony, but in familiarity, in the way one can be quiet together without needing to explain it, in the way a glance, a wave, or a small interruption reminds you that you are not keeping watch alone. So yes, if people could experience that kind of gentleness that we have, and experience that kind of unguarded company, I believe they would understand the vigil immediately. And I will admit, the tea is better when it is shared.
So the one thing, Lord Greggor, that I would like to ask you, and first of all, yes, the tea is better when it's shared, but we've mentioned it many times, and I have mentioned it many times over the last few days about Christmastide. Even though we don't use that word, it just feels so familiar. Can you explain to us where the word Christmastide came from, and maybe even the century that it was around? Because it seems like we have lost so many of these great traditions. Anyway, if you wouldn't mind indulging us with that, please.
Of course, and I'm glad you asked it this way because the word itself carries the feeling you're noticing. Christmastide comes from very old English, Christes Mese and Tirad. Quite simply, it means the season of Christ's Mass. Not the day, the tide. In Old and Middle English, tide did not mean a date on a calendar. It meant a stretch of time shaped by meaning. A period that rose, lingered, and gently receded, the way the sea does. That understanding was already well established by the early Middle Ages. and the word was in common use by the 11th and 12th centuries, long before the modern idea of Christmas as a single morning. People spoke naturally of Christmastide, Eastertide, Whitsuntide. These were not poetic flourishes. They were practical ways of living inside sacred time. Christmastide specifically referred to the days from Christmas Day through Epiphany, January 6th. It was understood as a contained season. One entered deliberately and left slowly. That is why it feels familiar to you, even if you did not grow up using the word. The body remembers what language later forgets. What has been lost is not the word itself, but the permission it gave. The word Christmastide told people, you do not need to rush. You do not need to finish joy in one night. You are allowed to remain. When the word fell out of use, the season quietly collapsed inward. What had once been 12 days of unfolding became a single point of pressure. So when you say the word now and it feels right, that is not nostalgia. That is recognition. The traditions have not vanished. They have simply been waiting for language that allows them to breathe again. And Christmastide is one of those words.
Thank you so much for that lovely explanation. It does resonate, and I think all of those listening now, it is resonating with them as well. This just, for me, is a goal that during this season, and we still have some time left and some days left before January 6th, that we can practice some of these good traditions that we seem to have lost throughout the years. The one thing that I want to say also, Lord Greggor, is that you've been so very kind to me this season. It has been gifts that are surprising and so wonderful. So when you first mentioned, when we first had the beginning of this podcast, keys and books, immediately I thought of what you've given to me. Keys, books, pens, journals. I feel so blessed, and I want to thank you so much for your generosity. You won't allow me to give you anything or send you anything, but I have a little something that I believe is very special. You don't know what is coming, and you don't know what this is, but if I could invite you to continue to watch the screen, you're definitely going to know what this is. So with that being said, Lord Greggor, thank you again. And now it's time to receive your little gift.
Then let me answer you as the moment deserves. It does resonate because it is meant to. What you are naming is not a wish or an ideal, it is a remembering. And yes, there is still time. Christmastide has not closed its door yet. These days between now and Epiphany are precisely for that. Small restorations, quiet choices, the return of gentler habits that ask nothing except attention. As for the kindness you speak of, I did not give out of obligation nor to astonish you. I gave because those things already belong to the kind of life you keep. Keys for trust, books for reflection, journals for witness. They were simply finding their proper home. And hearing you say you feel blessed, that matters to me more than you know. You say you have something for me, something unexpected. You say I've refused gifts before, and that is true. I tend to do that, but the way you've said this tells me it isn't an object meant to balance a scale. So yes, I am watching the screen now, fully, without reserve. Whatever this is, I receive it not as something owed, but as something shared. And for that, thank you, Veliana.
Greeting cards have all been sent. The Christmas rush is through. but I still have one wish to make, a special one for you. Merry Christmas, darling. We're apart, that's true, but I can dream, and in my dreams I'm Christmasing with you. Holidays are joyful, there's always something new, but every day's a holiday when I'm near to you. The lights on your tree, I wish I could see. I wish it every day. Logs on the fire fill me with desire to see you and to say that I wish you Merry Christmas, Happy New Year too. Oh, just one wish on this Christmas Eve. I wish I were with you. I wish I were with you. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, darling.
Oh, Veliana. Oh my goodness. Oh, this is fantastic. Veliana.
Well, I guess you liked it. Is that what that means?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes, I do like this. Thank you so very much. You sing like an angel to me.
And with that being said, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here at Whispers of Vale Keep, and I want to thank Lord Greggor for sharing this wonderful time. Wishing you a wonderful Merry Christmas and even a merrier Christmastide. And don't forget to come back next week, the first day of 2026. We will be here and we're talking about the catacombs of Vale Keep. You don't want to miss this one. So thank you so much for taking your time today and listening. And Lord Greggor, thank you so much for taking your time. And Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you, Veliana, and may all of you watching and listening, thank you so much. And may you have a happy, healthy, and beautiful Christmastide.
That is so nice. And don't forget, Lord Greggor, you're supposed to keep watching.
Yes, all right. Oh,
Well, I hope you're not upset because that was just a little something that I had to put together.
upset? No, not at all, Veliana. It is time you and I talk. I'm calling you.
Well, let's not forget, we're still on the podcast, okay? So good night, everyone. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being here for us. You know, sometimes we have to be a little silly, and, well, I want you all to have a wonderful night. And you be well. Thank you so much. Bye for now.
Yes.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Oh, haha. You make me smile, Veliana.